Hey everyone, Matt here. Thanks for downloading Seincast. You're listening to one of our early episodes, which means the audio quality, well, it's not that good. Plus, we weren't playing clips from the show yet. Starting with the second season episode, The Chinese Restaurant, you'll notice an improvement with our new microphones and the addition of show clips to the discussion. You'll just have to put up with the audio issues until then. Rest assured, it does get better. We had a lot of fun recording these early episodes and poring over the excruciating minutia that makes Seinfeld so great. Enjoy the show.
Yeah,
George.
It's Elaine.
come on up.
Hey, Benny, listen.
I never heard anything like this in my life. Listen to this.
This is exciting! Huh? Did I miss anything already?
Kramer, get in.
Crazy man!
Hey, sit down. Come on, it's about to start.
Hello and welcome to Seincast, a retrospective on all 180 episodes of Seinfeld being hosted by two guys who can barely run their own lives. My name is Matt.
I am Vinny.
How you doing, Vinny?
I'm well. How are you, my friend?
I figured it'd be nice if we started off the show with a nice hearty laugh.
You did that right.
Something totally unrelated to the show, so I'm sure it's going to be extra annoying since no one will ever know what we're laughing about.
Apologies, friends.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. You know, Vinny, I realized that I've been introducing all these shows, and I was thinking maybe next episode, episode 5, you could introduce.
Why would we deviate from the norm?
I don't know, just to mix things up, really make things exciting here at Seincast. What do you say?
Okay, fine. Let's do it.
All right, cool. Well,
So what episode are we on right now?
this is 4, so you'll have 5.
So I'll take all the odd shows.
Yeah, you got odds.
You got evens.
There you go. There you go. So something we actually just noticed, like as we were recording the show, the emojis, the Seinfeld emojis that we were talking about, a few weeks back, I think, maybe during episode 2, episode 3, are available. These are Seinfeld-based emojicons on the Apple Store that allow you to, text your friends a little image of Jerry. What else? You have George, Elaine, Kramer, the Costanzas.
I'm downloading them as we talk.
Excellent. I see a little collection of pretzels, Junior Mints. Vinny, what can you tell me about emojis?
I feel like I'm a field reporter right now. Well, Matt, what we have is emojis are little icons that you can send somebody while you're texting. So to show some emotion, you send an emoji-con. But we got Jerry, George, Elaine, Kramer. There's Newman. There's Banya, it looks like. There's Frank and Estelle. There's Newman. The Urban Sombrero. The Marble Rye. The Postal Truck. Junior Mint. Puffy Shirt. Pretzels. And then it looks like we have Mike Moffat. The Soup Nazi. Jackie Childs. Morty. Helen Seinfeld.
These emojicons are created by Seinfeld 2000 on Twitter, and this guy is, I think, absolutely hilarious. He mocks the Seinfeld Today Twitter account that pitches a lot of, sitcom ideas if they were, happening in Seinfeld world. And just kind of like mocking the whole idea of Seinfeld, but I think it's obviously done out of love, as these emojis would indicate. I guess people can just find these on the iTunes store. It's Emoji, Seinfeld edition. It's free, so if you have an iOS device, by all means, check it out. Let us know what you think.
I'm trying to send them to you, Matt, so check your phone, see if you can get them.
We are now doing a iPhone to Samsung Galaxy test here to see if my Samsung Galaxy accepts these emojis.
This is scintillating podcasting right here. I'm going to send you one that is near and dear to my heart.
Oh, here we go. Oh, Vinny just sent me a little black and white cookie. Thank you, Vinny.
You are welcome, my friend.
That's so sweet.
Me to you.
Anyways,
Love that.
this is free, and I think it's fun for probably a Seinfeld fan to have on their phone.
Looks like somebody's going to be getting bombarded with emojicons.
If you can't find the emoji app on iTunes, I'll add it to our show notes, and you can find a link for it there. You can also find a link on Facebook and our Twitter page. All right, so Vinny, let's move on to, I guess, what we're going to be talking about. The Robbery, the 4th episode of Season 1.
Robbery.
The Robbery.
Okay, what do we got?
Well, not much, actually. We're a little short on trivia for this week.
Not a lot of meat on this bone.
Not really. Just a heads up, I don't think there's a lot of meat on this one or next week's episode, the stock tip. These last 2 episodes of Season 1 are, I don't want to say they're forgettable. I don't want to get off on the wrong foot here by trash-talking these episodes, but I like them. They're just not your most classic Seinfeld episodes, and unfortunately there's just not a lot of trivia. But probably the biggest trivia to get started is that this is the first episode not written by Larry David or Jerry Seinfeld. This one was written by
Matt Goldman.
Yeah, Matt Goldman was a program consultant at the time. He was with the show just for the first 2 seasons, I believe. Maybe a little bit of the third. He was promoted to story editor, but he was credited with writing this episode, The Robbery, and the Season 2 episode, The Stranded. He eventually left either at the end of Season 2 or sometime during Season 3. He definitely was there like in the early days of the show, which would make him a pretty interesting guy to talk to. It'd been kind of cool to hear from him what Seinfeld, just what the mood was like on set in those early days.
I'd love to hear from him solely because he is the guy that Larry David gave that tape recorder to record the table read of Mail-in Bonding. So that alone would be worth getting a chance to talk to him.
Yeah. Well, one other bit of trivia to sort of set the mood for this episode, The Robbery. This is actually kind of inspired by some actual robberies Jerry experienced in his life living on 81st Street. He was getting robbed pretty regularly, and I think at one point the thieves, actually broke through the wall to rob his apartment. So I don't really know how you do that. Like if it's like Shawshank Redemption, you're just like slowly like
He went
chipping
Andy
through.
Dufresne on it.
Yeah. That's one way to do it, I guess. But
Or it was the Kool-Aid Man.
yeah, good point. Yeah, he could have just burst through the wall, and Jerry's like, "Oh my god." All right, so let's get underway. Season 1, Episode 4, The Robbery. This was written by Matt Goldman, directed by Tom Sharonis, and its original air date was June 7th, 1990. First scene, as always, or at least for the first 7 seasons, is Jerry doing stand-up, and he's talking about how he was driving at one point, and a woman had given him the finger, and is kind of confused, or I guess at least it's funny that we were supposed to feel bad if you get the finger from someone. It would actually be more insulting if someone gave you the toe. Have you ever been given the finger?
I have not.
You haven't?
I've seen people be given the finger, but I've never had a finger directed at me, solely because I'm more of an old man driver, so people tend not to flick off.
But have you ever given someone the finger?
I have not.
You haven't? You live a pretty clean life there, You're not getting into trouble, you're not...
I like to piss and moan in the confines of my own car to myself, so that's how I like to do things.
Shout out Serenity now and just try to keep your cool every chance you get. I've only been given the finger once, but it was actually multiple fingers, not on one hand, but on 2 different hands, I guess. So I was in New Jersey approaching a toll, and I have this little Honda Civic that I drive, and I'm pretty cool on the road. I don't get angry. And this Range Rover just totally cut me off as I'm approaching the toll, going 3 miles an hour, and it just kind of in front of me. And it was filled with these meatheads, just these dudes, I guess, heading to the shore, and almost simultaneously on the right side of the Range Rover and on the left side, these hands popped out, and they both, were sporting the middle finger.
Yeah.
And it was so absurd. It made me laugh. Kind of pissed me off, but made me laugh at the same time. And I just decided to raise both my hands as well, and I just started moving my middle fingers in a circular motion. It did really get under my skin, despite being so absurd. It made me pretty angry, but I'm glad it didn't escalate past then. But
this actually, I just thought about it. This is actually referenced later on in the pledge drive, right? When George is given the middle finger from what he assumes is the middle finger, and he has to chase this guy down and catches him at a gas station.
You're good. You're very good. I didn't even pick up on that one.
Just came to me.
Just opened my mouth and out it came. Are we allowed to do other references on the show from other movies and stuff?
I don't think we have much more material.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
We got to keep it coming.
All right. And you mentioned something to me actually when we were off mic that this middle finger bit, or at least this opening stand-up, wasn't actually part of the original episode, right? It was something Jerry came up with on the spot?
Yeah, I think I read that while Jerry was warming up the audience, he improvised this routine about getting the finger. And it worked so well that they decided to use it in the opening segment of the show.
I like that, because it's he's not just someone reading a script, he's actually developing his career as a stand-up comedian while he's even making the show, so... And
he's gauging the response of the audience, so if a bit works and kills, he's going to use it. Funny's funny.
So, our first proper scene, I guess, is in Jerry's apartment, and he is packing for a trip. I guess he's going to, Minneapolis or something for a couple of days. and he's talking to Elaine just about how packing is like leading men into battle. This routine, Jerry like listing off different items that he's packing, and then later when he takes Elaine to the fridge to explain like what foods to keep in there or not, it all feels very, I mean, I know it's scripted, but it feels a little overwritten. Jerry's sort of in a stand-up mode right now, the way he says certain things. I don't know if that makes sense, but
it's a comedian doing shtick, right?
Mm-hmm. Sort of feels like it. I think the Jerry that we know in the show in future episodes wouldn't be so on fire and just full of so much material. Like
it's very animated.
Very much so. And it feels like he's almost doing like a bit.
You're poo-pooing.
Yeah, maybe I'm poo-pooing a little bit. I mean, it's cute. As Seinfeld fans, we would quote something like this. But I think on like a funny level, I don't find it that funny.
I think it's what we talked about earlier, that it's reminiscent of old Jerry. This is something that old Jerry would do, and with the no meat,
no soft cheeses, no soft cheeses
no
of
soft
any kind.
cheeses of any kind, right?
Mm-hmm. Since Elaine will be watching Jerry's apartment for him while he's gone, he also stresses that, you know, when it comes to sexual activity, it is strictly prohibited. Since last episode, the stakeout, it seems like Jerry is, you know, cool with Elaine, you know,
dating the guy from Wall Street.
Yeah, in fact, yes. If that's who she's still dating, I guess that would, and continuity-wise, that would be who's in her life right now that we know of.
But the fun thing is that if she is gonna partake in that activity, do us all a favor and do it in the tub. I like this because it's a reference to Peterman takes Elaine to see the English Patient, and she just cannot stand this movie, and she's describing it to the girl at the diner at Monk's, and she's saying, "Sex in a tub, that doesn't work."
I like to, not that I like to think, I'm not like fantasizing about it, but maybe Elaine did try to actually have sex in the tub with someone, the Wall Street guy, for example, and maybe it didn't work.
During this house-sitting trip.
Mm-hmm. It makes me wonder why she has a plunger in the later scene. Maybe like some of her hair got clogged in the drain or something.
I thought the exact same thing.
Oh, God, what's wrong with us? And Elaine, of course, you know, tells Jerry that she doesn't mind watching the place for him because she's trying to get a break from her roommate, the waitress actress who we later know as Tina. She doesn't show up, though, until season 2. At this point, she's just mentioned as the roommate, but we know that she's, you know, a wannabe actress and really annoying. I wanted to point out something, though. I noticed the set, and I don't think we saw this during the stakeout last episode, but Jerry's apartment has a little bit of a hallway next to the bathroom, which we'll, you know, later know as sort of the way to get to his bedroom. We were talking about this last episode that, you know, where does Jerry sleep in these early episodes? And I think we established it's the pull-out sofa when his parents spend the night. But I don't think we have confirmation that he has a bedroom at this point. Maybe it's just like a hallway going to a closet or maybe a dresser. I don't know. But I thought that was an interesting development in the set design.
We should keep an eye out for when we first see the bike hung up in the back, because that's a big fixture in his common or present day apartment.
Definitely. I think it's a bookshelf right now.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll keep an eye on that bookshelf.
Okay.
I'll let you guys know.
So we discussed that Elaine is not happy with her roommate, and when George arrives to the apartment, she asks George if he could find her a new place, since George is still in real estate at this point. And George says that it's a little tough finding something in Elaine's price range, but then he looks at Jerry and says, "But I do have something for you. This new place, it's a 2-bedroom, a couple blocks from the park, really nice." And Jerry says, you know, 2 bedrooms? What do I need 2 bedrooms for? I'm having enough trouble maintaining activity in 1 bedroom. Which George and Elaine share that nice look, and Jerry does the, "I saw that."
It's so cute, the humor in these early episodes. Like, they're all so, like, buddy-buddy, like, Like...
I love it.
Yeah, so we basically set up that, you know, Jerry's place is not the nicest in the world, and Elaine even says that he should look at the new place so she could move into his apartment. It's like a step up for her.
Yeah, she says that it'd be like moving from Iceland to Finland. What's up with that?
I don't know what's up with that. I think this is sort of the beginning of Elaine not having a lot of money, which gets referenced in a couple more episodes. Or at least she's just not as maybe successful as Jerry, financially speaking.
So, do we know what she's doing at this point? Is she reviewing manuscripts?
Yeah, you don't know. And, you know, I kind of get the vibe. I thought she was more in the arts for some reason, whether she's a writer or a performer or something. I just got the vibe that Elaine is more artsy, but maybe she is. She just kind of like sold out and, you know, started got a corporate job, so to speak. But
well, remember during the bris, Jerry said she attended the finest finishing schools on the Eastern Seaboard?
What is a finishing school?
I don't know. I was hoping you would know.
I don't know. All right,
cut that out.
Cut that out. Vinny, you and I have actually been to Jerry's apartment, well, his address in New York.
Yes.
Which is pretty close to the park, as you recall, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
This apartment that George is telling him about is just a couple of blocks uptown. Like it's almost like, like probably a 5-minute walk from where Jerry is currently living. Jeremy, Jerome. This is all moot though because Jerry just wants to get to a show, and George says that to talk quickly because he's double parked. So once again, we're getting a double parked reference from George.
Is this the first double park reference, or do we already have one?
No, we got the double park in the pilot in the Seinfeld Chronicles.
That's true. You're on stage in 20 or 15.
Yeah, it's the George being Jerry's manager.
One.
Then we have this one, but he mentions a double parking in the pilot. Everyone's gonna have to excuse this because this is maybe the 50th time we've tried recording this podcast today, Vinny.
Yep, it's been very fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. We're next scene is back at Jerry's apartment. Once he comes back from his trip, he sits down. No TV, no anything. Right? He starts like clicking around in different areas, which I love.
He's aiming for that TV.
Yeah, wherever it might be. Clicking in all places. I do like this moment. I don't know if that's improvised by Jerry, but I think that's pretty funny. Just the clicking around at random items in the apartment, hoping something turns on. He shouts for Elaine, and she comes out holding a plunger.
Yeah, which is the oddest sight. What is she doing in that bathroom that she's coming out with a plunger?
Well, yeah, so I don't know if we set it up enough, but Jerry's apartment is a little rundown, right? You can't keep all the certain foods in the fridge.
You got to turn the shower on, go do all your shopping at Bloomingdale's, come back, take a shower.
So maybe I just imagine Elaine's like mane of hair somehow like clogged the bathtub, or I don't know, maybe it's in the toilet. So Elaine tells Jerry that his TV and a VCR were stolen just a few hours ago, which makes it like just really painful. Jerry, if he had just gotten home a few hours ago, maybe he could have stopped the robbery. Kramer shows up and explains that he was cooking, borrowed a spatula, and he left the door wide open because he got caught up watching The Bold and the Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I noticed, though, his hair's getting a little taller. He's looking a little bit more vintage. Mm-hmm. And he's got a shirt on that we both found amusing.
Yeah, I love that black and white design. I assume this is when they started dressing him in a lot of vintage wear, to the point, I think it was pretty tough to find vintage clothing. Like, it got so expensive that they had to start making Kramer's outfits.
Well, I believe that's later on in the series. At this point, the model was... Kramer's a guy that doesn't leave his apartment that much, so he's going to wear whatever he had from the 70s. Mm-hmm. So his clothes are very outdated, hence why he's got the high-water pants and he's got the really hip shirts, because they were things that he just had in his apartment. But it wasn't until the show really took off and gained its popularity that people started modeling this dress, when the costume designer, I don't have her name off the top of my head, but they decided to just make Kramer shirts out of vintage prints.
And this shirt did remind me of Chet's shirt from an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yes.
I think Curb Your Enthusiasm is the only show we're allowed to reference maybe.
I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Elaine does explain that she was waiting for the shower to heat up, right? That's why she wasn't around when Jerry's apartment was robbed.
We also get Kramer saying, so the door was wide open, which is that hand movement, it's brushing over the top of his head is very characteristic of Kramer later on. So I feel like Michael Richards is starting to take on the Kramer character.
Totally, man. That's a great catch, actually, because I didn't even pick up on that. Jerry says that he doesn't have insurance, though. He spent all of his money on the Clapco D29, which I feel like only like trivia experts would memorize that. That's like a question we would totally get at trivia. It's the most impenetrable lock on the market. You think Jerry would be really mad at Kramer for leaving the door open? And I noticed all he does is just sort of, slam the door, and say, like, the door must be closed for the lock to work. But that's it. He's not like, Kramer, you ass. Why did you leave the door open?
He doesn't get that upset, which we kind of learn throughout the series, in that things always have a way of evening out for him. And even when he does get upset, it's not him really being mad. It's his voice is rising to a comedic pitch, So I just like these trends that seem to be consistent throughout the series.
Kramer promises Jerry that he's, on the case and he's going to find his stuff, and they pretty much leave it at that. Next scene is still in Jerry's apartment, but this time there's a cop there, and he's like going through all the items that were stolen from Jerry's apartment. We got TV, VCR, stereo, computer. I love that like all the I love that all the electronics get stolen, but they also included the leather jacket. Like,
right.
I imagine the robber just taking all the stuff that he's going to sell for maybe hundreds of dollars and That one leather jacket, maybe he.
Leather jackets are pricey.
I like to imagine that maybe the robber was taking it just for himself or herself, or herself.
Maybe he's just got style and he likes the way Jerry dresses.
That's true.
Maybe it's a crazed fan who saw him at a nightclub.
Also, an answering machine was stolen, and I love this joke that Jerry makes. He hates the idea of someone out there returning his calls.
I like that too. It's really cute.
Yeah, but Elaine and the cop don't get it, which is unfortunate. I think it's a good bit. It was a good bit in 1990, and it's still relevant today. Well, not really.
It's actually not relevant today since nobody has answering machines anymore. But keep going. It's good.
Cop tells Jerry that they never find anything anyways, so what's the point of doing a report? George enters and does one of the most annoying gestures that I've ever seen the character do. when Jerry is like, "How'd you get in here?" And how does he do it? He does the "I Dream of Jeannie," like hand smack, then the head bounce, and that look on George's face when he does that, it's like this look of disgust. Jerry,
no, it's like, what are you, an idiot?
Yeah, George is
disrespectful.
Absolutely, and George is the biggest idiot in this entire show. Like, he even says he is.
We haven't learned that just yet. George at this point is still more grounded in reality, and he's not as much of a caricature. But he still doesn't have the qualities that we've come to know that are Costanza yet.
I'm all about George's arrogance in later seasons, but there's something about these earlier episodes when he gets cocky or he gets arrogant. It just really gets under my skin. I don't know what my deal is, but it really bugs me.
I don't think we've seen enough misfortune happen to him yet to have him deserve being an ass.
Good point.
I think that's what I was thinking.
There's that balance later, like George can be a jerk, but kind of get his comeuppance, so it all evens out. George goes on to say that Jerry's lobby door was broken again, and this gets back to this conversation of how can he live like this, and maybe he should check out that new apartment, especially since Elaine would want to move into his old apartment, and they decide to check it out. Yeah.
George actually has the keys at the ready, so perhaps George is being so much of a jerk because he's really trying to make this sale and get Jerry to move into that apartment.
Oh, that's a good point. I imagine George downstairs, like he's the one who's always been breaking the front door.
Yeah.
It's a setup. Before we get to the new place, though, we go back to a little bit of stand-up, and Jerry's talking about would contact the police if you ever get ripped off or robbed, and they fill out the report, and unless they give a copy of the report to the crook, they're not really going to crack the case.
Now, I also thought this was kind of cool because this isn't the last time that we see Jerry get ripped off. Do you remember the next time this happens?
Oh. I can only think of Kramer and Newman selling those records, and Kramer's like, he's ripping you off.
No, I was thinking of during the alternate side when Jerry's car gets stolen. They actually call the car phone to talk to the crook.
They actually have a very nice conversation with him, right? He's very polite.
Yeah.
I don't know, we talked about this in an earlier episode, how some of Jerry's material, would kind of like be written because of what's in the episode. And this feels like one of them, doesn't it? Like, I just get this weird vibe.
Yeah, I could see that. I like it, though. I think it's a good little bit.
Mm-hmm. It helps transition us into the next scene, which is checking out the new place. They walk into this, big sprawling apartment, has a fireplace, has a garden, and
fireplace?
I love Elaine. She's like, "This isn't an apartment. This is a home. This is a place to live." It's just she's not overselling it because it's a nice place, but she's just so cute.
She is.
You guys are gonna get sick of us saying that.
No.
But what does Jerry ask about, like, how do you get all the wood in here?
No, he's like, I gotta get a wood guy. Right?
Yeah, gotta get a wood guy, and what do you gotta tip a wood guy?
What do you tip a wood guy?
Which is, I love that too. Like, that's pure Larry David, like, humor. There's no setup, there's no punchline, it's just that regular conversation. What do you tip a wood guy?
What is the social protocol for tipping?
Which does come up throughout the season, which I love. Jerry starts to ask, do I have to tip a gardener too? The wood guy would be the same guy who delivers the coal for the barbecue, so he's definitely going to have to tip him. He knows that they're overselling the apartment.
Yeah, he's very nonchalant in checking out the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
But George and Elaine are driving hard to make the sale.
Yeah, I'm sure Jerry's already made up his mind, right? He probably likes it. He just wants to mess with his friends a little bit.
And he does so even further when he's walking around, locks Elaine in the closet.
I love that.
And then there's another one of those OU looks.
Later walks around. Elaine is mimicking him what he stops and like points at her. Gotcha.
She puts her hands on her hips.
This is a very, I don't know if cute is the right way to describe this episode, but there's a lot of cute little jokes, OU moments. Jerry says ultimately he's going to take it. Lane is thrilled because it means she's getting his place, but George doesn't seem so thrilled. He says congratulations, but doesn't look too happy for his friend.
He's not happy.
Nah. We go back to Jerry's, old apartment at this point. This is a great little bit back and forth where Elaine's asking about the couch, and Jerry was nominated for Emmys for this character, and a lot of people kind of joke, though, he's an actor, he's a stand-up comedian, but this little bit where he's like, you know what, 150, you're a good friend, in fact, get it out of here, just get it out of the apartment. You totally get what Jerry's doing there. I think that's really good acting. I don't think I could pull that off myself.
It has a really New York feel as well.
Mm-hmm.
I get the feeling like, I don't even want to see it anymore. He throws the hands up.
George arrives with the lease, and Jerry's reflecting on, oh my gosh, this is a 3-year lease. This is a big commitment. And this is right where George, drops the bomb. Gently, though, right? If you don't want this place, you don't have to take it.
That was his opening.
Yeah, we pretty much realized that George wants this apartment, and slowly but surely it comes out, and Jerry can't take the place if George wants it. So what do they first settle on?
They're going to do a coin flip. Now, I have another problem with this, too, because they agree on the terms before flipping the coin. They say no catching, call it in the air, and everybody settled with that. Jerry flips it, it hits the table, hits the ground. George doesn't say anything. Then when Jerry says tails, then George freaks out because it wasn't heads. He's like, you can't call that, the table's interference. It affects it. And Jerry says, they're arguing. You didn't call no interference. George should have called it.
This might be the moment where we get the real George Costanza. Someone who's really pathetic, really low, will make up the rules as he goes, will cheat if necessary to get his way.
Yeah, as long as they're good for him, which is very similar to Larry David, like the episode when he goes to of Curb, when he goes to the doctor's office and he wants the policy changed. First come, first serve versus the scheduled time appointment. You would like a system when it's good for you. And Larry's like, yeah, whatever serves me best is what I would want. So I definitely see George in the scene.
You compare this to the earlier George just from a couple episodes ago where he was doing the Woody Allen impression, and even Jason says later on in the season I started channeling Larry David more because George is based on him. Yeah,
there's a great line in the documentary when him and Larry are having this argument and Jason says, Larry, first of all, no one would ever act like this, and if they did, he's like, this is not what they would do. And Larry goes, what do you mean? This is exactly what happened. This is exactly what I did. And Jason says, oh. So then Jason decides to model his character after Larry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no... Once you see the parallel between Larry David and George, especially in this scene, there's just... Come on, they're one and the same. So George acts like a little spoiled brat because he lost, and Jerry says, all right, fine.
Do you think the table is interference?
No, unless you set it up from the beginning. Yeah. Unless you were to say, hey, can't touch anything, has to be straight up in the air, straight to the ground, anything counts.
Because when they do a coin flip at a football game, sometimes they'll flip it, catch it on the hand, and then flip it over the back of the hand, or they'll flip it and let it hit the turf. I'm fine with either way.
I think whatever happens as long as the person calls it right before, whether it's heads or tails. Anything can happen. Whether you flip it, whether you...
George is not happy. They ask Elaine for Elaine's advice, and she doesn't want to get involved, which is pretty smart. Although I have a feeling I know who she'll side with. So they decide to choose each other for. Now, I remember we've talked about this over the years, and we didn't know what choosing was. You remember?
Yeah, were we inspired by the show to start choosing, or did we just know about it?
No, we knew choosing occurred in this episode, but we didn't know how it was played, and I remember us Googling it at one point, and we found the rules. So do you want to explain the rules?
Yeah, so for those of you playing at home, you and a friend, one of you will pick odds, the other one will pick evens, and you say 1, 2, 3, shoot. You stick out either a 1 or a 2.
Can it be any finger as long as you just add up what your fingers are, or does it have to be 1 or 2?
I thought it was either a 1 or a 2. And in fact, I sometimes do just a fist, which is 0.
Oh.
I like to do 0, 1s, or 2s.
Okay, we'll keep it at that.
Jerry and George only put out a 1 or a 2, but either put out a 1 or a 2, and depending on the sum of those numbers, if it's an even number, even gets the point. If it's odd, odd gets the point. And Jerry and George go back and forth, and eventually Jerry wins. First one of 3. First one of 3 wins. And George, he's got some dignity there for a second. He shakes Jerry's hand, and he's like, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom.
First of all, I love before they even choose each other, they size each other up like in a prize fight, like they're circling. George takes off the sports coat. Jerry's rolling up his sleeve. And Jerry gets him quick with he wins 2 straight chooses. And when he says, mine, and he's got that look, he's got this look on his face of, like, I'm about to win. And George takes off his glasses and he, rubs his forehead. Then on the third round, George gets one and he's like, mine! He's so excited. But,
this is all Jason Alexander, like, without a doubt. Just, like, how revved up he is. He, like, claps his hands when he gets that one point, and then he's out.
Then they shake hands. Elaine measures the couch, and George says, I'm just going to go to the bathroom, wash my hands. And then more brilliant Jason Alexander, why did I put up 2? Why did I put up 2? And he slams the door.
Slamming the door. Now, this moment right here, after the choose battle ends, we get this moment where Kramer enters Jerry's apartment, and he doesn't just enter, but he slides in. This is the first Kramer entrance, like, proper Kramer entrance where, he slides and it's kind of goofy. And story goes that this was discovered by accident, that Michael Richards was late on his cue to arrive, and he compensated by coming in really fast, and he stuck with it. We might see a few regular Kramer entrances in the future, but for the most part, this is the first slide in.
And Michael Richards was very adamant about wanting to make each entrance unique, so he tried to make everyone just a little bit different.
Yeah, I would love to see, like, a supercut of all of Kramer's entrances.
I'm sure that's on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, we should.
Maybe we can search that and post it.
Now, Kramer tells Jerry about this guy that lives down the hall. He's this Englishman, and he's been apparently avoiding Kramer, which doesn't come as a surprise. Kramer told him that they were in the elevator, I think, and Kramer's like, by the way, I know about the stuff.
What stuff?
But the guy swallowed, Vinny. The guy swallowed, all right? He was nervous about something, and Kramer's going to find out what it is. So Kramer, runs off all excited, saying if he doesn't get back in 5 minutes to call the police. So the plot thickens on whether or not this guy took Jerry's stuff. And spoilers, I don't think we really find out anything else from Kramer the rest of this episode.
Now, didn't the guy have a name in the script?
Yeah, in the early draft of the script, the English guy's name is Burbick. I don't know if this is going to be a recurring character, Burbick, the Englishman down the hall. But yeah, for whatever reason, I guess they just kept it simple.
It's Burbick from across the hall. Oh, no, actually, it's Burbick from... I can't do an English accent.
That's good. It's good.
Burbick from across the hall, it's Burbick from across the hall,
Burbick sounds a lot like Paul McCartney.
Yeah, he likes the Beatles, Burbick. Hey, what do you think, man?
So the next scene is stand-up. It's actually the last stand-up we see this episode. It's mainly about how, I don't know if this is written for the show or if it's part of Jerry's old routine, but he talks about how one of the main reasons kids resolve things so well is they call it. If someone wants the front seat, you might not get it because the other one called it. And there's, nothing you can do about it. Even if you had a kid court of law, the judge would say, well, did he call it? Oh, sorry, case closed.
Your Honor, my client clearly called it. And the kid can't say anything because he knows it's over. Yep.
Yeah,
I love this bit. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I like this one a lot.
This is quintessential Jerry doing his humor through the lens of a kid, and it's just beautiful. It's so well done.
Yeah, it's funny. I like any of his stand-up material that relates to being a kid and sort of, as an adult, remembering what it was like seeing the world as a child. Mm-hmm. We kind of forget, over time.
Yeah, like when he talks about how 2 kids can become best friends over nothing. He's like, you like licorice gum? I like licorice gum. We'll be best friends, Oh.
Yeah. It works against you, though, sometimes, like with Joel Hornick. Like, one of you might have a ping pong table, and then you become friends for the rest of your life, and you won out.
One of the things that I thought was really cool was while watching this episode, the Notes About Nothing, Jerry was telling the story of he was with a friend who was eating milk and cookies, and he made the kid laugh, and the kid spit up the milk and cookies on Jerry. And he absolutely loved that feeling. Not the feeling of getting spit up on with milk and cookies, but just being able to make someone laugh so hard that milk and cookies comes out of their nose.
When you mentioned the milk and cookies going everywhere, remember when Kramer gets cast in the Woody Allen movie?
Yes.
And he dropped the bag of groceries, and he's like, and Woody starts laughing. He's like, yeah, he was drinking some and started coming out of his nose. Just reminds me of that.
I love that.
Next scene is at the coffee shop. Something we haven't mentioned yet, well, I guess this is the first time we see the coffee shop this episode, is despite seeing the interior from episode 2, Mail and Bonding, we have yet to see the outside of the restaurant.
That's true.
So I thought it was interesting that they knew what the inside of this restaurant was going to be and, would forever look like that. Yet, for whatever reason, they just don't have the outside. So I wonder if sometime after season 1, before they started filming season 2, they sent someone out to New York to be like, hey, go find restaurant exteriors and we'll figure it out later.
And what made them decide to land on Tom? That blue awning with the neon red, though, has become iconic, though.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine any other exterior.
Even though George was really upset last time we saw him for losing the shoes, he starts talking about how the bathroom in Monks looks terrific, and he doesn't know if it's the tile or the lighting, but he looks like Robert Wagner.
What do you know Robert Wagner from?
He's in a lot of stuff, like he was in the original Pink Panther.
He's not number 2 from Austin Powers, is he?
He is. I think most people would know him from Austin Powers, like today's audiences.
That means he was also one of the professors who taught Tim Watley?
Well, he's Mickey Abbott's father.
There you go.
Oh, there's right before we get into sort of like the whole point of the scene, that moment when George is looking at the menu and he's like, look, you can't have anything anymore. Eggs out, coffee out, French fries out. I feel like we do that a lot. That comes up a lot.
Now, I actually wanted to discuss that. Does that mean you can't eat these things anymore because they're not good for you, or they're just out on the menu?
That's a great question. I always assumed they were out of it at the restaurant, which makes no sense. And I never understood that, but you're totally right, because he starts talking about his grandparents, right?
He's like, I go to visit my grandparents. They're eating big brisket sandwiches. I'm sitting there with a carrot. So does that mean at that time you can't have eggs anymore? You can't have coffee. You can't have French fries. Can't have a BLT, right? You're
totally right. I don't know why I assumed that the restaurant was out of that stuff. So I guess George is just being really health conscious, or is that just maybe a commentary on the times?
He's complaining you can't eat anything anymore,
I don't really see coffee or eggs being that bad for you.
Probably the caffeine and the coffee and the cholesterol and the eggs.
Yeah,
especially in the 90s at that time.
And if you're eating that every day, maybe it could add up. But
well, they actually reference that later on when they're talking about George getting Frank and Estelle's inheritance, and he's like, that depends. Does your father still eat bacon and eggs every day? Unfortunately, yes. But I had one other thing I wanted to ask you. It was kind of a hypothetical. But so we know who Frank and not yet at this point in the series, but we know Frank and Estelle Costanza, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are played by Jerry Stiller and Estelle Harris. But George mentions his grandparents, and I thought it'd be fun to try and let's cast George's grandparents right now. Like, who would you pick?
I don't know if I could do this. It's so hard because I'm thinking of someone like Jerry Stiller and like Estelle Harris. And why would his grandparents still be alive? That just doesn't make any sense. If George is late 30s, and let's say Frank and Estelle are late 60s?
Yeah.
I guess his grandparents could be in their 80s or early 90s. Yeah. Do you have 2 people in mind?
Well, I had the grandmother instantly, but it's kind of a cop-out. So for the grandmother, I thought who better than who Larry cast to play his mother. So I went with B. Arthur. And I thought she'd be the perfect complement too. That's my pick for his grandmother. My pick for his grandfather, I thought could be Don Rickles.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he would give George a hard time, and then I see B. Arthur doing that as well.
That's pretty good. Whose parents are they? Would they be Frank's or Estelle's?
I guess I didn't think that far ahead, but I'd say I'd say Frank. Although I'd like to keep the height the same in the family, so B. Arthur's kind of tall, but Don Rickles isn't that tall a guy.
It's tough though because I don't know about Estelle Harris, but I know B. Arthur, Don Rickles, and Jerry Stiller were all kind of from that camp from the 1960s.
Yeah.
I guess they're all around the same age, but yeah, totally. I feel like you'd need some sort of makeup to age them as Frank's parents, but yeah, it could work totally.
I could imagine in the same way that Frank hits George on the forehead. He's like, "What are you doing?" I could imagine Don Rickles doing that to Frank, and that's kind of how Frank developed that in the way he treats George.
So George brings up losing the shoes, and Jerry is trying to still push the apartment back on him, and all in all, neither of them can enjoy the place, so they decide neither of them will take it. And there's I swear when I first watched this show that I thought the actress was Terry Garr, but it's not. It's I actually don't have the actress's name with me right now.
Her name is Anita Wise.
Anita Wise. She plays Carolyn, the waitress, and overhears them talking about this apartment that neither of them will take, and that takes us into the next scene.
Well, but before you go on,
Yeah.
we also saw Anita Wise from the male unbonding episode. She was the waitress who Joel yelled at. So she actually comes back, which I thought was a nice little touch as well, to have the same waitress working at the same restaurant.
Yeah, and I think it's the last time we see her. We don't get another Carolyn appearance.
She's done after this. Yeah. And actually, I looked her up on IMDb. This is her only acting credit.
Wow.
Was these 2 stints on Seinfeld. She is credited as being a set production assistant on this thing called Corpsing in 2013. And then she played herself on a Bob Hope special at some point in the 90s, but that's it.
That's bizarre. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, she was definitely someone that I would like to have seen more of.
She was great.
It might be a little predictable, and they were sort of setting this up in the pilot, but I kind of would have liked someone at Monk's to be a reoccurring character.
Yeah.
A little bit more than Larry, the manager, and someone who has a little more like interaction with the cast than Ruthie Cohen.
You see some of the waitresses kind of come back and forth, and I believe some of those waitresses are Elaine's stand-ins throughout the show. So we'll discuss that when the time comes. But yeah, somebody who had more of a speaking role, or we knew them by name, as opposed to just waitress of the week.
There was one, I guess, before we go to the next scene, there was one other moment or little detail in the background, and I guess we could have saved this for connections, but there was a sign that said smoking in designated area only. That made me think of Kramer, when he lights up and Larry, the manager, tells him to, put it out. But I was thinking, oh man, back in the good old days, Kramer could have, just lighted his cigar and no one would have bugged him. But I don't think we see anyone smoke in Monk's.
No, we don't. Not that I can think of.
So, the last scene of the episode takes place in, I guess, Carolyn's apartment, we'll call it.
Carol's apartment, sorry.
All 3 of them are sitting on the couch, Jerry, George, and Elaine, during Carol's housewarming party.
And they do not look happy.
They don't. So pretty much everyone lost in this episode, right? Like, Jerry didn't get the apartment. George didn't get the apartment. Elaine is stuck with her roommate, who's now starting rehearsal on Carousel. And Carol, approaches them and just tells them how happy she is with the apartment, introduces them to her husband, Larry.
I love that his name's Larry.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I think Larry, I know it's by design, but his character, man, he was so over the top. Jogging in the park, and the rent is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's oh, man.
It's a little over the top. I mean, they really have to, dig that knife in a little deeper.
Here's a nice bit of trivia for you.
Since we have no, barely any trivia for this episode.
The trivia has been sparse here, and we do apologize for that. There's slim pickings in the robbery. But Jerry's real-life sister, her name is Carol, and her husband, Jerry's brother-in-law, is named Larry.
So Jerry named these characters after his sister and brother-in-law.
That's what I'm trying to say, but I can't get it out.
So Carol introduces the group to Diane, who's a masseuse that lives in the building, and it made me think of Jerry's girlfriend, the masseuse played by Jennifer Coolidge in season 5. It's another great example. We were talking about this earlier today, how George acts like a real jerk and doesn't really get any comeuppance, and I feel like this might be the first episode that he kind of gets what he deserves. Just in the sense that, by being such a... I mean, he wasn't that much of a jerk, I guess, in the big scheme of things, but by trying to cheat Jerry and not being honest and just sticking with his guns, here you go, this is what you missed out on. Sort of reminiscent of kind of when he puts on that engagement, or the wedding ring, to see if women still flirt with him, and all these women just, come out of nowhere, and, oh, too bad you're married.
That is great when they turn the screws on George. Jason Alexander plays this so well, because I just find George just despicable in this episode. I think any decent person would keep their mouth shut, right? Because the apartment's been offered to Jerry. Now it's up to Jerry to make the decision to rent the apartment, right? They wouldn't have said, if you want it, I'll take it. If you don't want it, I want it if you don't want it. They wouldn't have. I don't think somebody would have said that, because that opens up a whole door. And had he not extended the offer and seen it himself, we'd be talking about a different episode.
Sure. And listen, this is not the worst George ever gets. I mean, I think just by the 4th episode, this is the worst George gets.
This is still pretty tame on the full spectrum there.
Yeah, definitely. So, Jerry jokes around, asks how late the stores are open, thinking of buying a new TV and smashing it over his head, which is pretty good. Ties into the, TV that was stolen earlier. One more thing before we kind of wrap up. In the original script, Elaine asks Jerry what happened to Kramer. Since we don't see him for the rest of the episode, no one talks about him. And Jerry tells her that Kramer stayed over at the Englishman's place for 3 hours, and apparently they're best friends now. So
That's very Kramer.
Yeah, and I don't know why that line got left out. I guess you would never have really known when Jerry would have found out about that, but I think it would have brought some resolution to Kramer in this episode. We're still missing out on those. I don't want to say like solid Kramer arcs, since I don't know if he has much of those in a show. Well, generally he does in the later seasons.
They haven't found out how to quite use him just yet.
Right, he just dips in, dips out of scenes, an entire episode sometimes. I would have liked a little bit of resolution, I guess. So, Vinny, how do we get out of this episode? We have no more stand-up.
All right, so we have the gang sitting on the couch, and they're upset. Then you see two gentlemen standing behind them, and they're discussing that one of them just got a new job, and he's being relocated. And the other gentleman asks him, so what are you going to do about the apartment? And he's like, what can I do? I got to give it up. So you see everybody head turn and in unison scream, What's the rent? And then it's a freeze frame, right? Don't they freeze on there?
I mean, we usually freeze frame on the stand-up comedy.
Some other cool trivia. This is something that I love, and I think you like it too.
Can I say one thing real quick, Vinny?
Sure.
Just before you get into trivia, I hate the last line of this show like so much. It kills me whenever like things are so sitcom-y like that, where it's like it's too like I enjoy stories being like wrapped up. Like I love when all these different plot lines converge and it's a nice tight sort of story, but I hate like a button or like a bow on the end of an arc.
Oh, a little cherry on top.
Yeah, like to me, it's a little too sweet. This episode reeks of the OU sort of stuff that I was talking about earlier. And
do you think that was more of the executives having a hand in?
I'm not sure, because it seems like the idea feels like Larry. You know, the idea of, okay, all these characters are in the same situation. What's the rent? Like, you know, we all need a new place. We're all screwed. We're all trying to find a place. So that kind of feels like Larry. You know, the fact that they're all in maybe a worse situation than they were before. But how it comes off, the final delivery, kind of smells of like network influence to me a little bit. It has just like a slight cheesiness factor that, hey, again, you know, Larry and Jerry really weren't experienced writers at this point. So, you know, maybe it was all of them. I don't know. But for whatever reason, it doesn't stick the landing.
Yeah.
The way some of the other episodes do.
Well,
and this could be because this is the first episode that doesn't end with stand-up comedy. Maybe that's what's kind of got me like in a weird sort of
good point
sort of mood.
But as I was saying before you interrupt me, something I love to do and that you love to do as well is look for characters or actors, see if they've appeared throughout the series, whether they've reprised their role as the same character or they come back to play a different character. So the man on the right, the man who has to give up the apartment, his name is David Blackwood. He's credited as man number 1 in this episode, but he goes on to play 7 different characters. Some are small, really small roles, some are a little bit bigger, but 7 different characters throughout the run of Seinfeld. So David Blackwood plays man number 1 in The Robbery from season 1. In The Apartment from season 2, he plays Stan. And we haven't gone through these second season episodes yet, so bear with me. But I believe Stan is the gentleman. He lives with Roxanne, and they have that great apartment that overlooks the marathon. And Jerry had just gotten Elaine the apartment in his building, and he's regretting it. But Elaine is introducing Stan and Joanne. So that's Stan there. So he's also credited as an interviewer in The Nose Job from season 3. And this is when George went for the job interview, and he had spinach in his teeth, big old piece of spinach in there. And David Blackwood, you know, says we have nothing for you at this time, and even makes that little mannerism to get the spinach out of his teeth. In the Cheever Letters, he plays the doorman who drops off the surviving box from the fire at Susan Ross's house, and his name is Raymond. In the handicap spot, he plays a security guard. In the Marine Biologist, he plays the hotel clerk, and I love this one because we actually always quote this line. So when Carol Kane's character, which is Corinne, I believe, she's waiting in the lobby, the hotel clerk comes over and he says to Corinne, if you don't put that cigarette out, I'm going to have to ask you to step outside. And she says, oh, okay, I wouldn't want to take any attention away from the hookers. And
he's like, all right, get out.
And she goes, okay, Crowell. Which me and you always say that back and forth, the okay, Crowell. So I love that one. And finally, in the episode The Gymnast, he plays a character named Beck.
Yeah, he's the guy from the meeting when they're combining Poland Creek and Morgan Springs into Moland. Moland Spring. Yeah.
And Elaine's like, Moland? I would never have anything. I wouldn't drink anything named Moland. We got to do something about that name.
That's crazy. 7 appearances. That's
Yeah.
insane.
He had to be a stand-in for somebody on the show to be coming back like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone that's there. I mean, for everyone out there, like the stand-in would be someone who stands in for the actors just for lighting and stuff, so you don't have to use the talent during every single minute of production. They can take a break from acting while the stand-in stands in.
So, for instance, good one, Matt. So, for instance, in the episode The Doorman, when Jerry is posing as the doorman, he's reading the paper, and the FedEx guy comes in and he drops off a package, and then he says, "How about those Knicks?" That is Jerry's stand-in. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but we'll get there at some point.
Yeah, and probably the most popular stand-in was Kramer's stand-in, Norman Brenner, who I think we've already seen once, maybe twice. I don't keep track of it because I think it's
hard to keep track of.
Well, it's hard to keep track of, and I think it gets a little too repetitive over time.
I know we're going to see him in the next episode.
I think we'll probably point him out when he has a speaking role, because he does have a speaking role during a later episode.
It's a great one.
So he was a Kramer stand-in. And as you mentioned, one of the waitresses was, or might have been, Julia Louis-Dreyfus's stand-in.
There you go. Okay, so we just covered all David Blackwood's roles in the show.
Thank God. Thank God we found out every single role that David Blackwood plays throughout Seinfeld.
Are you loving this?
Our listeners are going to be elated.
And then, it's good water cooler trivia. Then the other guy he's talking to is George Sims, and he's credited as man number 2. He only has 2 roles throughout the series, so I won't bore you with all those. But he plays man number 2 in The Robbery, and he actually has a good one. He plays the FBI man in The Baby Shower, and he's the one when he's the one when Jerry gets the illegal cable hookup. He keeps referring to Jerry as Mr. Steinfeld, and Jerry has to correct him. So it's a good callback.
Oh boy! Well, everyone out there, we apologize for the lack of trivia, or maybe the most boring trivia you could get this episode.
We're really sorry,
but we got more. we still have more trivia to get through.
But wait, there's more.
We have guns to our heads. We have to get through this trivia. This episode, The Robbery, we believe, that we never got confirmation one way or another if it was in fact The Robbery, but it was during the first season filming that there was actually a pretty bad earthquake during rehearsal when they were filming in Hollywood at the, I think it's the Renmar Studios, right? There was a funny little story that Jason Alexander told when the earthquake hit. Jason knew that you're supposed to stand under a doorway, and that must be for support, I guess, or maybe you can tell if things are falling on one side or the other, which direction to go. But as soon as the earthquake hit, he ran to one of the door frames on the set and just braced himself.
And everybody's looking at him going, what the hell are you doing?
Because there's, no ceiling at all. There's just all these lights.
Swinging lights above him.
I probably would have done the same. I didn't grow up on the West Coast, so I'm not used to earthquakes, but I don't know what I would have done. So someone that we haven't really talked about this season was someone by the name of Fred Barron. Fred Barron, you might have seen Barron Productions at the end of the first season episodes. It comes up either right before or right after the Castle Rock logo. Now, he was brought in by NBC and Castle Rock to executive produce the 4 episodes from the first season. Not the pilot, just the 4-episode order that we've been covering the past few weeks. I don't entirely know what his relationship was like with the crew and the cast and NBC and Castle Rock. So during the filming of this specific episode, it was apparent that the show had a lot of problems. Now, we don't know specifically what those problems are because all we have is the final product. We could theorize, which we might get into, but Larry came up with a few solutions to fix the story, and apparently after he did that, the next day he got a $20,000 bonus, and he was told by Castle Rock that he will be the executive producer if the show gets picked up for a second season. So we can jump ahead a little bit here. I mean, it's no spoiler, but the show does get a second season. Surprise, surprise. So Fred Barron left the show. Now, I don't know if that's because Larry became the executive producer, or maybe Fred Barron was always going to leave and they needed someone to fill the spot. But yeah, this was the episode that Larry was kind of granted executive producer status in the second season and got a pretty nice bonus.
Yeah.
Now, Vinny, is there any way we could maybe, if we can't figure out the problems that this episode had, could we maybe theorize on what the problems were in this episode that Larry fixed?
That'd be tough. I know Larry is just so skilled at having all the storylines, get interwoven and kind of connected, but...
Yeah, because, as I mentioned earlier, like, this had a lot of cute moments in it and all, and the storylines aren't too crazy, we're still in those early seasons where we're following a pretty, like, simple, linear storyline, but it is nice how everyone's sort of in the same boat. Everyone being, George, Elaine, and Jerry, like, there's this theme running of, okay, everyone wants a place to live, what are we going to do? I have a feeling that maybe he simplified the Kramer arc a little bit. Maybe that was an issue.
Perhaps.
I wonder if he came up with the idea of the choose.
That sounds very much something he did when he in New York.
Like a game that he would have known, maybe from his childhood even, growing up in Brooklyn. There are moments, though, and we get this in the first season, but when it's after the choose, and George comes back from the bathroom, and he just has this little routine about the mirror looking like Robert Wagner, and going on this little, like, bit about healthy eating, that, to me, feels like a weird direction to come into the scene, Maybe Larry just did, like, an overall pass and helped clean up the episode as a whole, which is kind of sad because... As we mentioned earlier, this was Matt Goldman's first episode.
True.
So, you wonder if, like, they gave Matt Goldman sort of, like, a chance to write this, and maybe the network didn't really like it, or who knows what happened. But
maybe this could be something where we could ask the listeners what they surmise would be the solution that Larry David came up with. What problem was there, and then what solution did he come up with?
Yeah, so it'd be pretty tough to figure out the problem that we don't have any evidence of. But yeah, what if anyone wants to write into us and let us know, like, what areas do you think, like, maybe Larry had fixed up? Or so we've kind of dissected this episode the best we could. This was kind of a tough episode to get through, speaking for myself, but I think Vinny agrees.
Yeah.
That, out of season 1, this is one of the weaker episodes. Funny, I mean, it's got some great moments in it. I love the choose. I love the tour of the new apartment with Jerry, George, and Elaine, and Jerry just keeps asking about, how much do you tip a wood guy? Oh, am I going to have to tip the gardener? I love little bits of everyday conversation like that. But all in all, the episode, in my opinion, is just a little too cutesy to really say it's, that great of an episode. As much as I love these characters all getting along and having fun with one another, I don't like them being in sync so much that they're all best friends with one another. And
there's not enough conflict?
Yeah, I kind of like a middle. There's a middle ground of this show, which I think we get mostly in, like, seasons 3 to 7. In the later episodes, I think the characters get a little too selfish and a little too mean. Mm-hmm. And in the earlier seasons, I think they're just a little too sweet with one another. There's something in those middle seasons where I think they struck the chord just right, where, they care enough about each other, but they don't mind kind of screwing each other over.
Yes.
And in an episode as early as the robbery, I feel like we would never see the characters really stab one another in the back. They might be jerks to one another, sure, but I don't really think you're going to get that selfishness that the show is sort of known for later on. Mm-hmm. Oh, one other thing I'll add too, sorry. I also wish we got a little bit more of Kramer. I know that's a common complaint in these early seasons, but we're getting little slices of him, like sliding through the door. And you mentioned at one point, Vinny, the hand motion, like over the head, which I think is great and all. But I wish that his character development just sped up a tiny bit to sort of match what George and Elaine were bringing to the table. But all in all, I think I will be giving this episode 6 wood deliveries out of 10.
I think those are all really great points. And after having watched this episode several times for the sake of this podcast, it's actually been really tough to get through. Normally, I just put my DVDs in, plus press play all, and just kind of, get through them. But now that I actually had to sit and really pay attention, it was tough to get through. But like you made a really great point in that there are little moments in the show that are very memorable. So as a whole, when you look at the Seinfeld universe, this has some nice moments with the choose and just the choose. No, there's some nice moments there. Is it one of my favorite episodes? No. I really love on Jerry's stand-up CD. It's called I'm Telling You for the Last Time. And at the end of his routine, he takes questions from the audience. and they ask, one of the questions they ask, and he gets this a lot, is, what's your favorite episode? And he says, that's a really hard question to answer. He's like, they're all sort of my babies, and I try to do the best that he could with each episode. But he likes to look at it as breaths of air, and that each, you don't say, oh, that was my favorite breath of air. Each one has its own place, in keeping you alive, and that's kind of how I look at this episode. It's one of the 180. Mm-hmm. So because I had to watch it, and it took us several tries to get this recorded, I'm going to give it 5 middle fingers out of 10.
There's no subtext there with the middle finger?
No. Well, maybe a little bit. Yeah, it's been a long day.
Like Vinny said, we've had a tough time, watching this episode. We had a tough time recording this, even though everyone will be listening to it as hopefully, like a 1-hour conversation between the two of us.
Or less.
This whole thing, whole production took all day, I'd say. I really like what you were saying though about Jerry though at his I'm telling you for the last time special. He has a very positive outlook on life, despite the subject matter of this show. He is so, and what you said there about every episode being like a breath of air, I think that's beautiful. And
profound.
Yeah, it really is. Like when you, if we're gonna get real here for a second, we had a really rough day getting this episode recorded, and by no means the work that we put forward on this show be compared to what Larry and Jerry did on Seinfeld. Nonetheless, though, this is still an endeavor, and this is still like 180 episodes.
This is a labor of love, Matt.
Oh, more than anything. But we're going to have some episodes that are going to be a little tough.
There's going to be some duds.
I've faced my fair share of really tough days recently. I'm sure you have. I'm sure a lot of our listeners have too. And it's really nice to kind of look at life as being just one breath at a time, one day at a time, one bit of struggle at a time, one accomplishment at a time, and so forth. So despite this mediocre episode of Seinfeld, I'm really glad that we walked away with such a positive outlook.
Got real serious.
All right, so that's going to do it for us at Seincast. If you'd like to get in touch, you can email us, seincast@gmail.com. Also, please like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter @Seincast.
Also, if you haven't already, please leave us a rating or a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Any feedback is good for us.
Next week, we're going to be discussing the 5th and final episode of the first season, The Stock Tip. But for now, I'm Matt.
I'm Vinny.
Signing off. Seincast is not endorsed by Castle Rock Entertainment, Sony Pictures, or NBC, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. The official Seinfeld site can be found at sonypictures.com/TV/Seinfeld. Seinfeld, the Seinfeld logo, and all names, pictures, and audio of Seinfeld characters are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Castle Rock Entertainment or their respective trademark and copyright holders.
You got odds.
You got even.
Right. Ready.
For the apartment.
One, twice, three.
Shoot mine!
One, twice, three.
Shoot mine!
Once, twice, three.
Shoot mine!
Once, twice, three.
Shoot!
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Just gonna. Why did I put out two? Why did